Now back to Australia and the ABC's Four Corners, which on Monday launched the first of a two-part series promising an exposé into the US multinational conservative cable news network, Fox News.
Now the inside story of Fox News from those who were there. Trump wasn't alone in his assault on the truth, but he could never have spread the big lie so widely without his most reliable echo chamber, the Murdoch-owned and run Fox News. Tonight on Four Corners, how America's #1 cable news network became a propaganda vehicle for Donald Trump and helped destabilise democracy.
Helped destabilise democracy. Sounds ominous, Sarah Ferguson. But first, a declaration. Fox Media is owned by Fox Corporation, the chairman of which, Rupert Murdoch, who also served as executive chairman of News Corp, and News Corp Australia is the owner of this station. But let's address the facts. Four Corners featured 6 former employees of Fox News in this episode, and they weren't there to reminisce about the good old days.
There isn't a day that goes by where I am not ashamed or troubled by my association with what I think is the biggest purveyor of misinformation in the world, which is the Murdoch media empire.
What you saw Fox becoming was an ethically and morally corrupt enterprise.
It is important for Fox to report what Trump's henchmen say.
You know, the president is calling Fox News, and you've got your guys in there. It's really seductive.
We're in a dangerous political climate in our country right now, sort of on the precipice of whether or not we're going to actually believe facts or we're not.
What cable news runs on is fear, and what fear leads to is hatred.
Okay, so Four Corners is telling viewers they're about to tip the bucket on something big. And what events would that be?
We saw on January 6 how President Donald Trump's stolen election lies provoked an insurgency. Fox News didn't send the mob, but its worst outrage generator certainly fueled its anger.
But hang on, that was January 6 this year. 5 of those former employees had left the organisation more than 3 years ago. Conveniently, Four Corners omitted to tell viewers that. And what of claims such as these? Former Fox News host Gretchen Carlson.
I think that they allowed the former president to dictate what news they put out to the American people.
But she did not provide evidence of that, nor did Ferguson offer it. And this is where it became bizarre. The program turned to former Fox News CEO Roger Ailes, who was forced to leave the organisation in 2016 following allegations he sexually harassed female employees, one of whom was Carlson.
Well, for all of the allegations and difficulties that Roger Ailes got himself into, I don't know exactly if he would have allowed Fox to become what it is today. He did, I think, in his own mind, believe in fair and balanced. And by the way, let me clarify that. I'm not saying it was run better. I'm saying that I don't believe he would have allowed it to get to this point. He would have called up Trump and, you know, said, knock it off, right? And he did in the past.
That's right. The ABC shunned Me Too aside in its bid to get Murdoch. It would have you believe that Ailes, a sexual predator, would have stood up to Trump. If so, why was Trump such a big fan?
Fox is very disappointing that Fox puts on this. This would not have happened with Roger Ailes, I can tell you that.
Donald Trump referencing the late powerful Fox News chief who resigned from the network after allegations of sexual assault were made by 23 women.
Yes, that was Trump taking issue with Fox in the election campaign last year, saying this would not have happened with Roger Ailes. I could tell you that. Doesn't that suggest Fox's independence and journalistic objectivity is, if anything, stronger and more resistant to Trump's charms? Perhaps that explains why Four Corners didn't show you that. As we mentioned, only one of the 6 former Fox employees featured still worked in the organisation during last year's election. That was political editor Chris Steyerwalt, who sat on Fox's decision desk on the night of the election.
But the Fox decision desk was getting ready to make a crucial call for Arizona, a Republican state that Trump expected to win.
Okay, time out. This is a big development.
Yeah.
The Fox News decision desk is calling Arizona for Joe Biden. That is a big get.
Politics editor Chris Stirewalt joins us now. Here we go. How can you call Arizona, but we can't call Ohio?
Well, because the races are very different.
It was a brave call as Arizona was down to the wire, but it was the correct one, just. And there's no doubt it provoked fury in the Trump camp and raised the ire of many Fox viewers. Ferguson tried hard, but unsuccessfully, to suggest not only Fox management, but also the Murdochs tried to reverse the call.
Trump ordered his aides to call the Murdochs to demand they reverse the Arizona call. Were you asked by any of your superiors to reconsider the decision?
No one who was my superior, I received no instruction to reverse the call.
Was there a consideration?
There was a lot of question, right? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Oh my gosh, are you sure? But there was not reverse this, you must reverse this. It wasn't that. It was, are you sure?
So not having been successful in finding Fox interference, Ferguson looked for vendetta.
To satisfy the mob, the Murdochs needed scapegoats. They chose the two senior journalists on the election decision desk. Fox News' managing editor in Washington was forced to retire. Chris Stirewalt was sacked.
Yes, Stirewalt was later dismissed by Fox, but again, Ferguson was unable to provide evidence this was linked to his calling Arizona for Biden. In fact, as the Washington Post reported in February, Stirewalt was respected in the newsroom, but had another weakness inside the building that predicated the Arizona call: his ratings. Fox, which analyses its ratings on a minute-by-minute basis, found that viewership dropped or plateaued during Stirewalt's frequent appearances. Once again, Four Corners omitted that highly relevant information.
And Trump even lashing out at Fox News for a new poll showing him trailing his Democratic rivals.
The first on election night to call Arizona for Biden, which sent Trump into a fury. Since then, a steady stream of tweets denigrating Fox. Fox News daytime ratings have completely collapsed. They forgot the golden goose, urging his followers to change the channel.
It seems that we have a president who he can't wrap his brain or mind around the fact. He can't process the fact that someone who he thinks is so inferior to him won the election.
Trump's issue that Fox News ran former President Barack Obama's speech in Florida live.
1 week until the most important election of our lifetime.
But the president making clear to fact check him is to be all but dead to him. Fox isn't working for us anymore. Well, first of all, Mr. President, we don't work for you. I don't work for you. You're entitled to your point of view, Mr. President, but you're not entitled to your own set of facts, just like you never paid to silence a porn star until it turns out you did. Just because you're the leader of the free world doesn't entitle you to a free pass. Unfortunately, just a free press.
And it turned out Four Corners viewers were unimpressed, as the Australian's Sophie Ellsworth reported this week. Four Corners has stopped viewers from posting comments on its Facebook and Twitter accounts after it copped intense criticism for its exposé into Fox News that aired on Monday night. It appears highly likely that in this second episode, Four Corners will try to link Fox with the January 6 insurrection at the Capitol by Trump supporters. Talk about bad timing. MSNBC last weekend.
There's a new report out from Reuters today that basically says, no, it was not. Quote, the FBI has found scant evidence that the January 6th attack on the US Capitol was the result of an organized plot to overturn the presidential election result, according to 4 current and former law enforcement officials.
Yet again, Four Corners has overreached in its ideological vendetta. At least this latest folly involves only 2 episodes wasting taxpayer money. Remember this?
Hello and welcome to Four Corners. Tonight we begin our special 3-part investigation into the story of the century, the election of US President Donald Trump and his ties to Russia.
The special counsel did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with the Russian government in these efforts.
Story of the century. A beat-up, more like it. And as for Fox's reaction to this latest story, the Australian has reported the organisation will send written complaints to both the ABC and the Australian Communications and Media Authority, citing breaches of the ABC's impartiality rules. We'll keep you updated. The ABC has already gone on the defensive in a statement yesterday released where it said News Corp's reaction to the Four Corners investigation, Fox and the Big Lie, is as expected. The Australian's first column attacking the story was published before the first episode had even gone to air. Since then, the striking uniformity of the attacks from News Corp journalists, commentators, and outlets across the nation has only further served to highlight the importance of having a range of independent voices in the Australian media. The importance of having a range of independent voices in the Australian media. How ironic of the ABC given its uniformity and groupspeak, not to mention its blatant hostility to those who question its narrative. Rebecca, why don't we start with you? What did you make of the program, and do you think this was in the ABC's remit?
Well, what I think is it might be called Four Corners, but you only ever get one side of the story. You know, what I can count on a Monday night is that there'll be smears before bedtime. That's it. The program is just groupthink, bias, and we see it again and again. There isn't a white conservative person in a position of power who won't be subjected to this before the year is out. We've had George Pell, an appalling performance there that led to the imprisonment of an innocent man. We've had taxpayers having to pay the legal bills for defamation against, Andrew Laming, costs for Christian Porter. I mean, it just goes on and on. It's an embarrassment. It's a disgrace. It used to be the flagship for the ABC. I mean, now the only saving grace is that fewer than 500,000 people watch it.